So Endgame is finally here. It's been here. It's been out for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I saw it like a week after it came out. So major spoilers. I'm going to be talking about it here. So about a month before its release, I was, just like looking through YouTube, and I found like a leaked, quote leaked script of the movie, and I thought, oh, there's no way this is it. They're keeping it so under wraps that nobody knows what's going to happen in it. Not even the cast is getting the full script because they don't want people talking about it. And so I went ahead and I watched this leaked script video, and the first beginning of it, I kind of got worried because it sounded really like that could really happen. I started getting scared, and I almost turned it off, not to spoil myself. And then it took this really weird turn where I was like, okay, yeah, that's not real. There's no way they're gonna have that happen. That sounds stupid. And so I watched it, and I finished that script video, and I thought, okay, the first part was kind of scary because it sounded real, but then the end of it just took this huge wacky turn. There's no way they're gonna have them do that. So I was okay about that. And then a week before the movie's release, they released somebody caught like a video of like a leak of the movie. Like they recorded a clip of it, and I'm sure that video was posted somewhere, but it was immediately taken down. But like people, like all over YouTube, there were people were posting pictures of the leak, like pictures from the video of the leak, and it showed a lot of things that script showed in it. And I went ahead and I peeked at it back and forth every now and then to see it, and like every time I peeked, I saw a little more of something that said that was going to happen in the script, and I was just getting scared and bothered. And by the time the movie was like in theaters, nobody spoiled it for me. I didn't get spoiled after the movie came out. Between the week that it came out and the week that I saw it, I did not get spoiled, but I lost like so much motivation to see it because I thought that, oh no, the script, it's going to be that script and I'm not going to like the movie, and I had so little motivation to see the movie, and I was just worried it wasn't going to be what I wanted and it was going to be bad. I was going to release another YouTube video where I was talking about like a theory about Captain Marvel and why Nick Fury didn't call her until Infinity War, and I had this kind of theory going, but like every time I posted the YouTube video, YouTube was being its usual self, with its fuckery, and it just wasn't letting me post it for some reason. Over and over and over again, it would not let me post it. It was weird because I could watch it on my computer, but when I put the link on like my Instagram, you couldn't go to it because it said it had copyright, but it didn't have anything in it that wasn't already on YouTube. So I was like super pissed about it, and I just gave up on it after a while. So then a week after Endgame came out, I went and saw it in theaters, so I'll be talking about that right now. Again, spoiler warning, I will be talking about what's in the movie, but if you care, you probably should have already seen it because it's been out for like 2 or 3 weeks now. So I'm just going to get this out of the way now. Endgame, I was super excited for this movie. Watching Infinity War, I know a lot of other people were really excited to see Endgame after seeing Infinity War, and I was really hyped up for the upcoming months after Infinity War to see Endgame. I watched Infinity War close to 50 times at least now, and I've been anticipating Thanos' arrival to the MCU for a really long time. And when I saw Endgame, guys, I'm just going to say it, I was very much disappointed. I was very much disappointed going into it right after seeing that leak and that script leak. And by the way, that script leak was actually like months, like still in like 2018. It was like in December. It was posted like in December 2018. So that script, which about 30% of that script was correct, was actually like released like months and months before the movie, which is, maybe it was just a really good guess somebody had that just so happened to be like 30-40% right, but I don't know. So if you've seen it, the last hour, 45 minutes to an hour of the movie is absolutely by far the best part of the movie. They have that huge, amazing cinematic fight scene, which is undeniably one of the best scenes in the MCU. I mean, it's a whole 45-minute huge battle, all-out war. It's like nearly all the characters that have been in MCU. It's amazing. It makes up for not fully, but like it makes up for a lot of the disappointment there was leading up to that battle. And I really like that part, and I think I like that overall war better than all the fight scenes that were in Infinity War, just because it was so climactic and so nostalgic. But besides that, the first 2-ish hours of the movie were a pretty big letdown. I thought a lot more was gonna happen. I thought there was gonna be this huge secret to like what everything that happened throughout the MCU leading up to this moment, and it kind of did when they went back in time and did all that stuff. But a lot of that was boring, and it was just kind of them going back and grabbing something, when it happened. And that was kind of cool too, because they showed scenes that weren't actually in like the time when that happened. When the Avengers went down the elevator and they told Hulk to take the stairs. That was kind of funny, and that's new content that wasn't shown in the original Avengers movie. It's definitely an enjoyable movie to watch. I recommend you seeing it. It's just that I'm really sad I got my hopes so high after seeing Infinity War, because Infinity War to me is obviously better than Endgame. The ending fight scene doesn't quite make up for the 2-hour wait to see that. I mean, I would go pay right now to go see just the last 45 minutes of the movie. Were so much better than the first 2 hours. It was just a drag to sit through those 2 hours. I really don't think, with how much content was in the movie and what happened in the movie, I don't think it needed to be a 3-hour movie. I think they could have made it like a 2-hour, hour and a half movie and still have it be just as good, because those parts. So Tony Stark gets saved by Captain America, which I remind you, she's not introduced to the Avengers in the movie. You have to watch Captain America and watch the post-credit scene of that movie to see her actually like get introduced to the Avengers that are still on Earth, which I think is kind of stupid, because it's like that scene was like not even a minute long. You just include that scene, or like an extra minute of that scene, to put a little more explanation on the beginning of the movie, but they didn't even have that, and I thought that was really stupid, because that's a 3-hour movie. Like, you got a 3-hour movie, but you're missing pieces. You're missing critical pieces of the movie. So that happens. I was kind of glad it was that, instead of them just like making it back. Like Captain America came, they're like, "Oh, can you go save Tony wherever he is?" I don't know how she found him. They didn't explain that, but that's not that big of a deal. So they came back, and Tony has this little freak out moment where he gets mad at Cap for the Avengers being split or whatever. And I thought that part was kind of dumb, but also it was interesting to see. I don't know. I probably would have taken it out, because it doesn't really make much sense why Tony would just be like flipping out. But the excuse I see for that is that he was like on the verge of death, like he was super skinny and just dying, and he was strapped on a spaceship, and that makes sense. So they recap what happens, and then Nebula actually tells them, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I know where Thanos is." And this is the part that I saw in the trailers that made me cringe so hard, because it's like they're just like, "Oh, he used the stones again." And then they like track him down, and then they're all just standing there. Fucking Captain America's just like, "Let's go get him. Let's go kill Thanos. Let's go do this." And then it's like, bitch, do you even know like what the stakes are? Do you even know who this guy is? Like, he's like an 8-foot tall purple dude with all the power in the universe right now. Like, you really think you can just, go do that? And Cap also agrees. Cap's just like, yeah, that's how it happens. They're just gonna go get the Infinity Stones. First of all, how are they gonna get them from Thanos when Thanos is the most powerful being that ever existed at that point, one having the Infinity Stones? How are they just gonna go get them from him? And second of all, how they're just gonna, quote, use the Infinity Stones to bring everyone back? I wanted to just spawn in that room and say like, and raise my hand and say like, "Hey, who here has used an Infinity Stone or even held one?" And nobody has. And then I want... So, yeah. So, who here has used or held an Infinity Stone? Nope, no one. Who here has used or held the Infinity Gauntlet? Nope, no one. How are they just gonna go get them from Thanos and then just use them to bring everyone back when they don't even know how to use them or the Infinity Gauntlet? Like, that's just ridiculous how Cap and Captain America... I expect that from Captain Marvel, because I already think she's stupid. But Captain America should know better than to just, "Hey, alien technology, let's just boop-de-doop-de-doo, go use it." Well, not alien technology, but like, stuff they've never used before. This ultimate powerful source that they know nearly nothing about. And so they get on the spaceship, rocket spaceship, and they go out, and they go to the planet where Thanos is. And, that's okay, it's okay, Captain Marvel goes down there. That's kind of confusing how she just goes down there, and she just goes down there and, like, goes, looks at him right when on his field, and he's like, oh, there he is. I'm gonna go back and tell the other guys. She goes up and tells them, nope, nobody there. It's just him. And they're like, okay, let's go attack him. So they rush in, they hold him down, they cut off his arm, and he says he's destroyed the Infinity Stones. I'll reiterate the fact I think it's stupid that the concept of destroying the Infinity Stones is even a thing. It's like, how do you destroy an aspect of reality that, you know, controls existence? You know, how do you just destroy that? Like, that seems so willy-nilly. Like, if the Infinity Stones were destroyable, why weren't they destroyed like a long ass time ago? Like ponder that for a second. Like, if people were worried about people using the Infinity Stones for the wrong purpose, then why did they not just destroy them so long ago? It doesn't really make any sense. So that concept, I think, is stupid. Thanos is just like, yeah, I destroyed them, the work is done. And I thought Thanos was gonna say some smart shit like in a billion years, if I'm still alive, I'll snap my fingers again and reduce the population and put the universe back in check. Because isn't that the plan? You know, isn't that the plan, to keep the universe from being overpopulated? Like, if he destroys 50% of the population now, you know, the population is going to eventually grow to the former number it was. Like, he would want the Infinity Stones to, you know, bring balance to the universe then too, wouldn't he? Like, that part didn't really make any sense. So I really don't like the idea of Thanos himself destroying the Infinity Stones, or the Infinity Stones being destroyable themselves. And so then Thor just chops off his head, and then they go home. And then there's like seemingly no Thanos for like the next like 2 hours of the movie, and that is just total lackluster. They made Thanos this big badass purple motherfucker in Infinity War, where he was just all badass. He's just this monstrous entity with so much conviction to do this one thing, and he was just this insanely great villain. And within the first 20 minutes of the movie, they just went and found him and chopped off his head. And I think that's just so silly. I mean, they totally just nerfed Thanos right there so hard, and it bums me out extremely. So the Avengers thought they could just bring everybody back with the Infinity Stones, which they didn't know how they were going to get or how they were going to use, and they don't even have them to do that. So now they're stuck. And then 5 whole years pass, which I think is a bit ridiculous, because a lot can change to like a society in 5 years. Especially when 50% of the population is gone. Like, every system, just about every system that was originally running cannot run no longer, and it would take years and years for it to start back up again. So Ant-Man comes out of the quantum realm, and he goes to the Avengers, and he's like, hey guys, guess what? I was only in the quantum realm for 5 hours, and how much time passed? Oh, 5 years. Hey guys, time travel. And I could not comprehend the silliness of Ant-Man's thought process right there. Like, how does he just think that because he was in somewhere for 5 hours, and it was really 5 years in real life, that means like time travel? Like, they don't even really explain how the quantum realm is supposed to like work to make time travel, you know? And then they have those trials where like they're doing Professor Hulk is doing time travel trials with Ant-Man, and that also doesn't make any sense. I mean, it was funny, it was entertaining, but like, it really didn't make any sense. They just kind of, you know, hey, quantum realm, everybody's theorizing the quantum realm has something to do with time travel, so let's just do that. And then they did that and didn't really explain how it works. And I'm going to express how deeply disgusted I am that Professor Hulk is just boom in the movie. Like, I thought there was going to be this big reveal to like how Hulk is going to cope with his fear of Thanos, and how Bruce is gonna come to terms with Hulk, and they were either gonna become best buds and switch back and forth between one or the other, or they were gonna fuse together in this perfect symmetry of Banner and Hulk. But no, they just show him at a breakfast place as Professor Hulk. And you know, Professor Hulk is honestly funny. I like the character. It's cool. They have some really funny parts with him. But they very shortly explain that, like, oh, he just put the two together, and then boom, there you have it, Professor Hulk. And I really didn't like that they did that. I really wish they had a scene where they showed him becoming Professor Hulk, or something more than just, oh yeah, he put the two together and now that's him for the rest of the movie and you're just going to have to deal with that. And that really kind of bummed me out. It's just another one of those things that they left out for seemingly no reason, even though it's a 3-hour movie with like 2 hours of filler. So they go to Tony and they say, Tony, I think we can do time travel with quantum reality crap. And Tony's like, oh, well, that's not how it works, and I'm not helping you because I might get fucked up and I might lose my family. So Tony Stark, boop doop de doo, has a daughter, and he lives like in this cottage on a lake with Pepper Potts. Pepper Potts? Shit, I don't even know. Potts. And they have a daughter, and that part, honestly, like, it's touching, but it is so lackluster. I felt like no emotion between Tony and his daughter, because it was just kind of there, you know? And there really wasn't much of a climactic build to, like, him having a family and him caring about, you know, a child. It was just sort of there. You know, it felt so fake and not real. But you know, they went to Tony, and Tony's like, not gonna do it. And then later that night, Tony's like, what, doing some geometry on his table, and he just randomly discovers how to make time travel work. And that's when he decides to go help him. I just find that part utterly stupid and unexplained. I just felt like it could have been done so much better. You know, make up something and have it like semi-explain it, instead of Tony just sitting there thinking, okay, I fixed the algorithm, we can do time travel now. And then he goes to Potts and he's just like, I'm gonna go help him do time travel and try to fix everything. She's just like, okay, go do it. And then he goes to do it. And he goes to the Avengers headquarters, and they fully build a time machine. And now I will get into Thor. Thor, the part where they go and meet, Rocket and Professor Hulk, they go to meet Thor. Most of the scenes I find with Thor, like the scene where they go get him, and then the scene when Rocket and Thor go back in time to Asgard, I feel like there's so much in those scenes that's so unnecessary. Like, there's so much dragging on to this scene that's like, it's funny at first, like the reveal of Fat Drunk Thor is funny, and he's kind of cool. And it was honestly a little too much for me to handle, because after the first like 2 minutes of that, it just became really cliche and silly. You know, Fat Thor is just this fat, jolly Asgardian Thor. There's just so much of that throughout the movie, and I feel like there's too much of that. And, you know, it's funny. It's got its comedy moments. Like the part where he's sitting in the chair with the sunglasses on, and they're just like, oh, I think he's dead. That's honestly funny, but, like, it's, you know, there's too much of that going on for a 3-hour movie, you know? So they boop doop to do with their magical, you should already know how time travel works, so they make a time machine. And they honestly have a pretty solid concept of time travel in the movie, like when they, not how like the time machine and the quantum realm work at all, but like how time travel works, how they explain like, okay, well, we can't go back in time and kill Thanos as a baby. That was funny because Hulk is just like, that's horrible. but they explain how like going back in time and changing the past is just going to create an alternate timeline. It's not going to fix our future. Because if you go back in time and change something so that they would have never needed to time travel in the future, then they wouldn't even have been there. They would have like faded to dust after doing it or something. And they don't have that. They just have the fact that if you go back and you change something, it's just going to create an alternate timeline. It's not going to fix this timeline when we come back to here, which I think is a really solid concept up until the end of the movie. And so the teams go to their respective timelines and places where they can grab the Infinity Stones when they still exist. I don't want to get into that too much because that's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of a little boring and dragged on. I think my favorite part is when they went to the time of the first Avengers movie. I think that was a really solid, enjoyable part. Probably my second favorite part, or like my favorite part in the movie besides the final fight scene, was when Cap was in the elevator with those Hydra guys, and he's like, I'm gonna need to take that. And they're like, oh no, it's okay, Cap. And I deadass thought he was gonna start fighting them again like he did in Winter Soldier. But he's like, no, it's okay. And he leans over, he's like, hell, Hydra. And I loved that part. I laughed so hard at that part. That is a huge nostalgia boost from Winter Soldier. It was just so clever for them. That's probably the most clever thing they put in the movie, was that moment. And then the part where Cap had to like fight himself, and the part where Iron Man was like, oh, knock me out so that you can get the Space Stone. The part where Loki just grabbed the Space Stone and dipped, those parts were really cool. Those are some really enjoyable parts. And then the part where when they screwed up and then they needed to go like further back in time to grab more of Ping's formula device thing so that they could go back to their present time. And when see the part where Tony talks to his dad, I feel like is not very much like a little bit of that was okay, but I felt like that part again was kind of dragged on and a little silly. It wasn't really, it didn't really feel quite like this emotional connection to it nearly as much. But it was cool. I just felt like there was a little too much of that. So, like, halfway into the movie, the part where it really just gets really fucky to me is when Nebula goes to that time period to get the Power Stone. And, like, the Nebula of that time just so conveniently right in front of Thanos, like, connects to her future self that came to the past through, like, a network. And she just beams, like, a memory that just recently happened a couple hours ago, and then beamed the memory of Thanos getting his head chopped up right in front of Thanos. Seems way too convenient for that past Thanos, and I just think that's so dumb how that's how it all goes down. And then past Thanos looks at the hologram and he's just like, hey, that's the future. That's when I die. Oh, I really do get all the Infinity Stones and complete my destiny. That is faith. That is fate. And I just think that's so silly because it just seems so overly convenient for that to happen right there. Like, that's just such a freaky coincidence. Like, why would she even do that? Connect to her future self that's in the past through a network and then beam that immediately, uncontrollably? Just sounds so ridiculous. And then Thanos immediately knows what it is. He's like, all right, we're going to go to the future and stop them from undoing what I did in the past. And so Thanos, Gamora, and Nebula, they go find the present Nebula, and they switch out the headpiece on the past of the present Nebula, and they have the other Nebula go back to the future with them to later summon the spaceship. And yeah. And so the part with Hawkeye and Black Widow when she gets the Soul Stone, I really didn't see that coming. That was an interesting scene, and it was probably one of the more emotional parts of the film is when she sacrificed herself for them to get the Soul Stone. I thought it was a little goofy that they had to go do that, but I mean, it is what it is. That part was kind of unavoidable. It was one of the more emotional, enjoyable parts of the film, but yeah. And so again, when it starts getting really messy is when the past Nebula goes back to the future, posing as the present Nebula. When the Avengers are off going to do the snap, this past Nebula, who's never been on Earth before or seen a time machine in her life, sticks her metal dick arm into the time machine, presses a couple buttons on it, and spawns an entire fucking alien spaceship to the future. And it doesn't even, like, spawn in the room of, like, the Avengers headquarters and, break it. It spawns, like, above in the air so conveniently. And I just find that part so ridiculous. Because it's just like, how does she just walk up to that machine that she's never been seen before on a planet she's never been before, stick her dick robot arm in it, automatically know, okay, I'm going to press this button, this button, this button, this button, which probably have, if they do have symbols on those keys, she probably wouldn't know what they mean, Like, she doesn't know how to work this machine. How does she just stick her arm into it and automatically know how to use it? I just find that part so ridiculous and silly. Another part that's I find ridiculous and silly is how they don't even explain how Tony Stark just builds out of nowhere an Infinity Gauntlet. Like, how the original Infinity Gauntlet was made by interstellar, like ancient dwarves who are using the power of a dying star to create this amazing gauntlet that's able to harness the power of all the power in the universe, and Tony just boom boom makes it in like an hour. They don't even explain how he makes it or how he does it, and then it just automatically, the Infinity Stones just automatically fit into there, and boom boom done. Got it together, whereas Thanos needed to, like, enslave this interstellar dwarf guys who use the power of a dying star to create it, whereas Tony Stark can knock that job out in an hour. Thanos should have had Tony Stark made of an Infinity Gauntlet. So the part that I saw in the leak that really bugged me, and a part in the script that bugged me, is the script did say that Hulk was going to be the first to put on the new Infinity Gauntlet and snap everyone back. and that was the part that they got correct, and the part that bummed me out the most about that script is that Hulk was going to be the one to put on the Infinity Gauntlet and then snap everyone back, which I don't really understand, because I'm pretty sure they got other people to do that. Like, I'm pretty sure Thor, a god of Asgard, an immortal being that's 1,500 years old, who's practically indestructible, can get the pulp beat out of him by the Hulk and Thanos and still be fine, can hold the Infinity Gauntlet and snap probably with no problem, He'd probably, maintain, take a little bit of casualties, there'd be a recoil, but probably not as bad as Hulk. Like, if Hulk can stand it, I'm pretty sure Thor can do it just fine. So I don't understand why they just had Thor put it on and snap, or wait till he wasn't a little tipsy, which I guess that was the reason they didn't want him to put it on, because he was not ready to do it. All he had to do was put it on and snap, apparently. Also, I think that ruins the whole, meme that is the Thanos snap. Whenever you're talking about the snap that decimates 50% of the population, you call it the Thanos snap. Now, the Thanos snap is just that. And then the Hulk snap is going to be bringing those people back, and the Tony snap is going to be taking away the bad guys. That's, I think the snap is really, it's like, how do they know how to use it? How does Tony Stark just make an Infinity Gauntlet out of nothing and then put the Infinity Stones in it, and Hulk just knows exactly how to use it when he puts the gauntlet on, I think that's kind of ridiculous. I wish they'd explain how, like, maybe all you have to do is think what you want, and then the snap grants any wish you want. Maybe that, So Hulk snaps, and it brings everyone back, and everyone's like, at that point, everyone comes back, and they're like getting their shit back together before they join Cap on the battlefield. And Thanos up in his ship just rains fire down on the Avengers headquarters and just screws up their day completely. And then the battle commences, and the walkout of Iron Man, Thor, and Thor and Cap is really cool when they walk out to meet Thanos. But the part that I find underwhelming is that it's not the same Thanos. You kind of got to forget that and put it in the back of your head, at least for me, to really enjoy that to the fullest. Because it's not the Thanos that's already fought them. It's the Thanos that hasn't fought them yet. Thanos doesn't know who these people are. There's not the same kind of vibe going where it's like, I completed my destiny, but you guys couldn't handle it, and that brings you back to me. It's not the me that's already done it, it's already fought you, it's the me who hasn't yet. And you guys are feeling this anger towards me when I haven't even done anything to you yet except for blow up your base of operations. I think it's really cool that Thor has Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. Thor has Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. I didn't think they were going to do that, but I do think that part is really cool, and it's funny when Thor like gets Mjolnir again. He's like, yes, I'm still worthy. That part was really, really great. But yeah, when he gets them and he sparks the lightning and his beard immediately becomes braided. And I also thought that maybe like he became unfat just from like getting his weapons and like striking thunder on him. But maybe he was still fat. I still can't tell. I've only seen the movie once. I'm probably not going to watch it as many times as Infinity War, but I do definitely want to watch it a couple times to see those parts. Another one of my favorite parts, which kind of groups into the final fight scene part, is when Cap uses Mjolnir. That part is so beautiful and just amazing. If you haven't seen Age of Ultron, for that like 2-minute scene that connects with, I feel so bad for you, because that's such a beautiful thing. And Thor's like, I knew it. That part was just awesome. I loved it. I really didn't think they'd do anything like that, because that seems, if somebody would have asked, dude, I have a theory, Captain America is gonna hold Mjolnir and beat up Thanos, I would have been like, dude, no way, that's ridiculous, that's not gonna happen. But it happened, and I love that it happened. And he beat him up with it. The part where he struck him with lightning with the hammer, though, doesn't really make any sense, because Mjolnir is not supposed to control thunder. It's supposed to be Thor using Mjolnir to control and direct the thunder. It's supposed to be Thor's power. Thor is the god of thunder. Captain America's not the god of thunder. He doesn't control thunder, but for some reason he's able to do it with Mjolnir, which is confusing. It doesn't really make any sense, but I'll just roll with it because it was cool the way he did it. And the way he used the shield with Mjolnir was just awesome. I loved it. Definitely worth that 2-hour wait to see it. Also, the part where past Nebula just decides not to argue with herself and to kill her past self instead to get the gauntlet. I felt like that part was pretty solid. You know, I felt like, oh, this is the moment where they fuck up and something stupid happens, and then Thanos gets the edge on them just because they're, you know, they don't want to just end past Nebula for some stupid reason. And Nebula just shoots herself, and she's like, I'm done with this. We're moving on. And I thought that part was pretty funny, pretty solid. I'm glad that happened instead of something else that could have made it messier. But it also kind of, you know, makes the fact that Nebula's past self is still evil and works for Thanos kind of lackluster. It kind of makes her character, you know, her past Nebula ends at that point, and it's kind of goofy from there because she's kind of the reason that Thanos was even able to come to the future by her just automatically sticking her dick arm into the time machine and bringing him there. And of course, the final fight scene is amazing. You have all the Avengers. It's just a nostalgic blast of all the MCU battles put into one. And that's really where it all comes together. It's just that final fight scene. It's just beautiful. There wasn't really as much of the Black Order as I wish was going to happen. I mean, I wish the movie would have happened totally differently. But in that battle specifically, I wish there was more, like more up-face things happening between, like, you know, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Black Dwarf, and Ebony Maw. You know, they were still in it, and I'm glad they were in it, and that was cool. But I wish there was a little more, like, you know, like one-on-one fight scenes between them and the Avengers. I think that would be cool. It's nice to see Thanos, like, hustling on the battlefield fighting, as opposed to just, you know, standing there and just busting shit up with the Infinity Gauntlet. But that's also fun to see. You know, there really wasn't a lot of action with the single Infinity Stones, which I was kind of bugged about. I was really looking forward to seeing a ton of wacky shit happen with the Infinity Gauntlet. You know, all kinds of just messing with reality and time warping and space blasting and all that good shit. And, like, mind control with the Mind Stone, you know, that good stuff. But we really didn't get any of that besides Thanos pulling the Power Stone out of the gauntlet to punch Captain America, which was, I like that part. That part was cool, but that's the only time there was a single Infinity Stone in use on the battlefield. I felt like the end snap was pretty cliche. I saw it coming a fucking mile away. I kind of wish it would have happened a little differently, because it's like there's a lot of different ways that Cap could have, like, stalled just a little bit longer. Like, somebody said, I saw on a meme, like, different interpretations that Doctor Strange could have meant by holding up one finger. You know, obviously what was intended was that finger meant there's only one time where we win, dude, and this is it, where you put on that gauntlet and you die. But, you know, other interpretations could have been like he was pointing up, so he's telling Stark to fly up with the Infinity Stones because Thanos can't fucking fly, so he wouldn't have been able to reach him, and his ship was already destroyed. So Tony could have flown up and then stalled a little bit longer and maybe survived. Also, Doctor Strange could have meant, hold on 1 minute, I'm dealing with this waterfall, I'm gonna go help you in a second. And the last one was like, just take one of the Infinity Stones, he can't snap with only 5 of them. He needs all 6, so just take one of them and run away or something. So yeah, lots of different ways that could have played out, but it happened the obvious way, and it was just kind of this, oh, he's dead, boom, that's how it ends. And then it all gets wrapped up in the end. I felt the part where Potts leaned down near him was, you know, interesting how she said kind of like, it's okay, you can rest now. It's just calling back to the fact that Tony's been ready to die in, like, Avengers movie. He's just been ready to die to save his people, save humanity for the good of the realm or whatever. And she's finally just like, you did it, Tony, we won, we're safe now, we're gonna be okay, you can rest now. And I felt like it was a little weird, because she was sitting there telling her husband, the father of her child, that it's okay for him to die now. And I thought that part was a little weird, but it's kind of touching, because it kind of calls back to who Iron Man has been throughout the entire MCU. And of course, Peter has this kind of like, we won, Stark, don't die kind of moment. And he starts tearing up. The part, I didn't feel like a lot of emotion throughout the entire movie. I didn't really feel like this was a very emotional movie. I know a lot of other people said they cried. Honestly, when Iron Man died, I did not even shed a single fucking tear. I saw it coming a mile away, and I didn't think it was very emotional. The part where I almost burst into tears for like a split second in the movie, in this like split second scene where Thanos says rain fire down, and then Groot's running, and then Rocket jumps over Groot as like the they're shooting down on him, and I almost like died in that moment because it was just so touching. I almost started bursting into tears because Rocket had just gotten Groot back, and I felt like the part with Groot was a lot more emotional than some of the other relationships in the movie, especially more emotional than the relationship between Tony Stark and his daughter, who is in so little of the movie, and I feel like it's so emotionless. It's just kind of there. I thought it was cool that they had that scene where all the female Avengers kind of assembled before they did that race over to the quantum bus thing to take the stones back in time. That was cool. Also, did you catch that Scarlet Witch nearly single-handedly killed Thanos? He just ran up to her, just like, you took everything from me. And Thanos was like, I don't even know you. And people are making memes out of that now, and that's hilarious. And she, like, brings him up with her power. She's about to just crush his being, totally destroy him. And I thought that part was super cool. I was geeking out, like, dude, she's about to just end him now. Like, they almost finished it. And Tony wouldn't have to die and such. And so it all wraps up in the end. Thanos gets dusted too. I thought that part was, lackluster. I didn't really see a way for him to stay alive after that movie with the way the movie went. But in the script that I listened to back months before I saw the movie, it had said, but like all the theories I read said that Thanos was going to live on. And he was going to be in like one or two MCU movies after that. Like the script I read, that was about 30-40% correct. Said that Thanos was going to be alive at the end of it, and he was not, so they were wrong about that. And I'm kind of bummed that Thanos is gone, but I really didn't see... It would have been weird if they, like, imprisoned Thanos, like, snapped away his entire army except for him, and then, like, tried to imprison him or something. That really didn't make any sense, so I was glad he was dusted there, and they didn't try to make any... try to keep him going at that point. But I would have rathered the movie was totally different, and Thanos did live on. That is what I wished it would have happened. And so, in the end, Captain America is standing on the time machine. He's like, alright, I'm going to go put everything back. Notice he also was holding Mjolnir, so he was going to go put Mjolnir back from when Thor took it. Because imagine Mjolnir not being in the Thor movie, in Thor Dark of the World, or Thor not having Mjolnir at that point. That would have screwed up a lot, so would have screwed up as much as the Infinity Stones not being there. So, of course, he had to take Mjolnir back, too. Which I thought was cool because they were just touching on every point where like they needed to go back and stop different universes from creating. So they needed to take the Infinity Stones back to where they got them so that they didn't create like a horrible alternate universe type shit, which inevitably they ended up doing anyway because Loki got the Space Stone in that one and he dipped with it. So I don't know if he actually like went and fixed that, which I guess he could have. But something they could not fix is that now that there is a alternate universe timeline where Thanos does not exist. In the past that they went to, Thanos came to the future to fight them, and they killed him, his entire army, in the nebula. So now there is an alternate universe where Thanos died in 2014. Which is interesting. I don't think they're gonna do anything with that. Some people think that like they're gonna create movies about the alternate timelines that they create, which I think they could have created many alternate timelines. But I think it's kind of implied that Captain America went with the Infinity Stones and Mjolnir to go fix everything they could, besides the stuff that they obviously couldn't, like Thanos dying. And so Cap goes back in time to do that, and of course he doesn't come back, and this is when they screw up their whole rule of time travel. Is that then they find old Captain America sitting on the bench, and you know what happened. But that's not how the original rule of time travel works. If they would have followed the original rule of time travel, Cap would have just not been there. He wouldn't have existed in that universe, in that timeline universe anymore. He would have gone to the universe where he was still, because this is what I think happened, is that he went to a time right after he was frozen in the ice. After he ended the war and he was frozen in the ice, he went back to Peggy, I think was her name. He went to go live his life with her in a life where he went and lived his life without any war. But he was in a time zone in a universe where he was still in the ice, and then his future self was living his past. Yeah, that doesn't really sound like it makes all that much sense, but it does. And so the part that doesn't make sense is when he shows up as an old man at the end of the movie in the time zone universe where everyone's in, because he wouldn't have existed then. He that's not how their rule of time travel works. So they pretty much, it was going good up until that point, where that point doesn't really make any sense. And I think a lot of people know that it doesn't, and some people are just ignorant to the fact that they had a rule for time travel, and it's a different rule from other movies, but it made sense. But it made sense in the end up until the end when he did that, and then it's hard to explain, but that part really kind of screws it up. It's really not that big of a deal because it's the end of the movie, and it's a touching moment anyway. I just really didn't think, like, they could have had the same thing happen, but not have them see an old Captain America. They could have had Tony, or they could have had Tony's dead. They could have had Captain America hand Winter Soldier or Bucky his shield and say, "Give this to Falcon after I go." And he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "Goodbye, Bucky." And the Bucky would have known what was going to happen. And so Cap would have gotten in the time portal thing, and then time machine, gone back in time. And then when Professor Hulk tried to boop him back, he just didn't come back. And Falcon would have been like, "Bring him back, bring him back." And then Bucky was like, "It's okay, Falcon. He wanted you to have this." And then just cut to the scene where he's dancing in that room with her, and then have that be the end. They really didn't need that extra scene of an old Captain America, because that ruins their time machine, time travel rule. And I just really don't think they need that. It's kind of weird. So there's no post credit scene, which is kind of sad. But they do have like the original Avengers like signing, like the flashy scenes of them that has them signing, and I feel like that's a sign of them literally signing off, like they're not going to be playing those characters in the MCU anymore, which is kind of touching. But people who signed that were Thor signed it. Chris Hemsworth signed it after they showed a couple things of Thor, and he signed it where Tony and Cap aren't doing it anymore. I really doubt Hulk is doing it anymore. They've talked about a solo Black Widow movie, but I don't know about that now that Natasha's dead. And Hawkeye, I can see him not being in anything Marvel related anymore. But Thor also signed it, and I really thought Thor was gonna go. I thought Thor might have like a brutal death in Endgame, or like he would just fuck off to some other part of the universe and be like, "I'm gonna take my Asgardians here, and we're just gonna leave out of all conflicts for the rest of existence." But no, Thor gets on the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, which I did not see coming. And that makes it look like he's going to be in the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which they've already confirmed. And that, I'm honestly okay with that. I'm looking forward to see Thor be in it, but I have a feeling that he's not even going to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They just had him get on that ship because they didn't want him to just say, "Oh, I'm not going to be in the movies anymore," and still live. But, if Thor ends up not being Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I'm going to be really pissed because he got on that ship and said, "We're the Asgardians of the Galaxy." And that was really cool, so I'm going to be really pissed if he's not Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And also, I don't know what happened to the past Gamora. Whether past Gamora, when she came back, whether she stayed in that timeline, or if Professor Hulk was like, "Hey, let me take you back to your original timeline," because she really didn't know any of the Guardians there at that point. Remember, she kicked Star-Lord in the nuts. That's pretty harsh. And she wasn't on the ship in that last scene, but she does have a connection, we know, to the past Nebula right now. She lost a sister to her sister by her sister killing herself, her past self. So she's probably got a connection to that Nebula. So I do hope Gamora is in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Maybe the past Gamora is trying to find her purpose in the universe, and Nebula's like, "Hey, sister, just come join us, and you'll realize that this is your family," and blah, blah, blah. And that's how Guardians of the Galaxy 3 plays out. So, I don't like Captain Marvel, and, they made it seem like Captain Marvel was going to play a huge role in Endgame, and lo and behold, she did not. She played so little of a role in it. The beginning of her being in Endgame, I thought was so useless and stupid. She just seemed like this ignorant, useless character, even though she's supposed to have all this power. She's supposed to be super powerful. but she has so little significance in the beginning of the movie, and then she just shows up at the end, and I guess she does something significant. The scene that she is in the end is fulfilling. I enjoyed it. I didn't think there was much wrong with it, but she showed up at the end and she had so little screen time in the movie, and I just thought that was so silly that they even, they obviously created the Captain Marvel movie to make money. That's obvious. I can see that from like a business standpoint, but like if it wasn't for a business standpoint, and like she actually played a significant role in Endgame, she didn't. She did not. She showed up at the end and she did some stuff. She's in the beginning and she did some stupid, pointless stuff. Like, her home is Earth. Why wouldn't she just not stay on Earth for a while? I really don't understand her character coming into the MCU at this time, or at all at this point, because she played such little of a role in the movie. Like, before Infinity War, they introduced Black Panther, and they introduced the whole world of Wakanda. They introduced Wakanda, and they had that movie come out in February, whereas Infinity War was coming that late April. They kind of made, it's kind of the same. It's a parallel between like Captain Marvel and Endgame and Black Panther and Infinity War, where Black Panther was going to play a significant role in Infinity War, and he did. Most of that, there was that huge battle in Wakanda where like they used the Wakandan army, and that part was really fulfilling and like it made sense. And then the the Black Panther movie was very successful. I really liked that movie, and it made a lot of sense how they like introduced that movie real quick, to have some more stuff go on, so that Infinity War makes sense when Black Panther and Wakanda are in Infinity War, and that made sense. That was beautiful, and I felt like Captain Marvel was going to be a parallel of that, where it's like, all right, Captain Marvel is going to play a significant role in Endgame, so we need to like release her movie, early in the year before late April when we release Endgame. She's going to play a significant role, and she did not at all. I did not enjoy that movie nearly as much as half the Marvel movies, and she played so little of a role it was pointless. If you don't look at it from a making money, business standpoint of Captain Marvel existing, I mean, she makes no sense. It's just a waste of a character. I feel like they could have brought her in at a different time, at a different timing, and just it could have been much better than what it was now. And I can see them making more Captain Marvel movies in the future, but I can also see them not doing that just because of how like unsuccessful I feel like she is as a character overall in her movie and in Endgame. She played such a little role. Like, why have one of the strongest Avengers play such a little role, one of the most crucial parts of like phase 3 or 4 or whatever phase it is? I don't understand the phases, but yeah, she plays so little role in that. Why even have her, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make much sense to me to have her be in more movies if she doesn't play a significant role in one of the most important movies, as Black Panther did. And I hope they make I hope they make another Black Panther movie, as they're doing another Doctor Strange movie and this Far From Home movie that's coming out this July or something. That all makes sense, but Captain Marvel just doesn't really make much sense to me, and I could see this coming a mile away when they introduced her. I really didn't see how she would be that significant. So that's that, and now Endgame is most likely gonna beat that Avatar movie in box office records. It's already like in the top 5, I think, after like 11 days or something. So, but overall, I was pretty disappointed in the movie. I know other people are going to argue and say it was the best movie ever, and I just feel like those people really aren't true fans of, like, that's, I know that some people are going to be, like, just as hyped about it as me and just have a totally different opinion, but I had so much more angst for what I thought was going to happen. So many theories. I watched so many theory videos, and I think any one of those theories that I watched YouTubers come up with, I think would have been better than what actually happened. I just felt like it was all cut pretty lackluster except for the final fight scene. And so I'll give my rating right here. As a standalone movie compared to just other movies out there, I'd give it an 8 out of 10, about an 80%. As a Marvel movie, compared to all the other Marvel movies, whereas Infinity War and Ragnarok, which are the ones I probably love the most, would be like a 10 out of 10, I'd give this one like a 7 out of 10. So a little bit slightly worse than a standalone movie. And for me, for what I was expecting to be in the movie, how hyped I was for the movie, after all the theories I came up with and the theories that other YouTubers came up with, I was so disappointed, I'd give this movie like a 4 out of 10. And that's really low just because of the fact that I was so disappointed. And it's a personal bias thing also. Obviously other people are going to think that's absurd, but that's just how I feel. That's just how I felt after seeing the movie and sitting in the theater thinking, wow, 2 hours to see this amazing fight scene, and it just doesn't really make up for all this not being in it of what I wanted to see. There's just so much more that I wanted to see. I wanted to see, more, I wanted to see everyone have like a 1v1 with Thanos. I wanted to see Captain Marvel have a 1v1 with Thanos when Thanos has all the Infinity Stones. I wanted to see more Infinity Stone action. I wanted to see them like get stuck in a time loop, or like Doctor Strange comes back, or like it's every single aspect of the MCU comes into one. When I heard the movie was going to be 3 hours move out, when I heard the movie was going to be 3 hours long, I was so excited because I thought it was just going to be chock full of Easter eggs and just so much meaning in the movie. Can't take your eyes off it for a second or you're going to miss something crucial. And it really wasn't that. There's so many times where I could have just walked out of the movie theater, taken like a 10-minute break to go to the bathroom, and come back and missed maybe like 2 or 3 crucial details, which is not what Infinity War is all. Infinity War, you blinked too long and you're lost. You're just lost because you don't know what happened. And that's what I love so much about Infinity Wars. It was so full of stuff, I really wish they would have split Infinity War into 2 movies, and Endgame could have been like a 2-hour movie. I really didn't feel like there was that much enjoyable content in there to really be a 3-hour movie. I thought it was pretty dragged on. But they did really, really capitalize on the whole mourning effect of like after all that happened in that 5-year period. And I really don't understand, like, here's another thing, is that when half the population gets wiped out, it's going to take a long time for Earth to get back on track in society. A lot of things are going to quit. Nobody's going to show up to school the next day if 50% of the people at the school are going to be gone. That wouldn't make any sense. A lot of things are going to stop and need to take time to get back up. And so 5 years passed, and maybe they're back on track somewhat. Now imagine in the real world, 50% of the population is deleted. 5 years later, we're getting back on track, and then a snap 5 years later, and then boom, 50% of that population is back. I think that's going to take longer to recover those 50% people coming back as opposed to those 50% of people being gone. Like, it is going to take forever for society to adjust. They just got used to 50% of people being wiped out. Start repopulating the earth. Maybe they got another billion in those 5 years. But then all like 3.5 billion of them just boom, came back at once. Like, that is a huge, gonna like fuck up society and make society need to change a lot. The world has to go through a lot of changes really quickly, rapidly. I think it's really gonna take a long time. That's why I can't really see how it's gonna go from there. I was kind of thinking that if there was gonna be a big time gap in Endgame, it would be them just erasing all that happened in Infinity War. Like they went back in time and stopped the snap from ever happening, because then they wouldn't have to deal with this huge time breaking and have to deal with the fact that, okay, society's got to go through a lot of changes. Population gone, population back after 5 years. That's going to take a lot of time to adjust. I was hoping they would just avoid that whole concept by just having something happen in the movie where the snap never happened at all and Thanos wasn't a threat in the end. I would have rather that than this, because now I feel like Far From Home really isn't going to make much sense, because also another thing is that those people who came back are now 5 years younger than everyone else who didn't get snapped. How Ant-Man's daughter is now older, like she's like a young adult, and that's weird, because Ant-Man did not see that coming at all. He was like, who are you? Holy shit, you're my daughter, and you're 5 years older. And like, did Spider-Man's whole school get snapped? And that's why when he comes back in Far From Home, his friends are all still the same age. Like, I heard people saying, okay, if not all Peter's friends got erased, then they should all be like 5 years older now compared to him. And that would have really screwed up, like, just the further MCU movies and how they go on, as, like, everyone who got snapped and came back is now 5 years younger than everyone else. change. I really don't see how they're just gonna go back to normal society. They're gonna have to incorporate that in the next movies, otherwise it's gonna make literally no sense. It's just not gonna make any sense. Like, you can ignore that fact and just pretend that in Endgame the snap never happened and you don't have to worry about that 5-year period. But why would they even incorporate that if they knew it was gonna be that difficult to make a movie surrounding that. And so that's all for now. Thanks for listening if you watched this entire thing. Please leave a comments, please like and subscribe, and I'll be hoping to pump out more videos like this soon. And I hope to make a video in the near future explaining about what I wanted to see in Endgame and how I thought it could have been so much better and it had so much potential that was wasted. I hope to make a video about that where I just explain exactly what I wanted to see in it, which is going to be a little messy, but I think it would still be, I think a lot of people's theories would have been better than what actually happened. But overall, it was still a good movie. I recommend you go see it if you haven't, and if you've watched this video this long, I've totally spoiled the entire movie for you, but oh well, you've been warned. So that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See you next time.